My name is Cheshire. My pronouns are she, her.
And my name is Caitlin. My pronouns are also she, her. And this is
Common Roots.
This is our podcast about herbalism, history, and healthcare. Our disclaimer, as always, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare practitioner, ideally a clinical herbalist or your doctor, before starting any new herbal regimen, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, on medication, or have any known medical conditions. Today's episode is G for ginger.
Yes, I love ginger. I've told this story, I think even in another podcast episode, about my ginger ale that isn't really ginger, but it makes me feel like it's ginger.
Yeah.
But you've given me concoctions that actually have ginger in them.
Indeed.
And I can tell it actually has like a physical effect. So...
Yeah, obviously we will get into ginger a little later in the episode, but yeah, we have lots of fun information to talk about there. Just real quick before we dive into today's history topic, I wanted to once again thank all of our new listeners. I have been obsessively checking the analytics because I'm really excited every time I see a new listener or follower. So just wanted to say thank you guys so much for listening and following. I did want to ask very nicely if you wouldn't mind giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify. I don't know what that does, but the internet told me I should ask you guys to do it. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely loving the response we're getting. And please feel free to reach out to us. My email is Caitlin, Caitlin, at alchemy.co.uk. Our company name, Alchemy, is spelled ALCHYMIS. And we also have our Instagram, which is at Alchemy Healing. So ALCHYMISHEALING.
And I think we could talk about it now. We have actually signed a commercial lease.
Yes, I think we mentioned it in the bottom of the last episode, but yes, we are starting the process of our shop front opening in Brighton.
We're going to be on London Road in Brighton, right across from the fire station.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely going to start inviting you guys to come and see us.
Yeah, please.
And it'll be it's really exciting and terrifying. So anyway, today we are going to focus on a health movement from the 1970s that was trying to revolutionize healthcare basically through education. And that is the Boston Women's Health Book Collective. To start, we'll do a quick rundown of feminism.
Yes. So I know you were really excited about this, and I am too, actually, because truthfully, I know nothing about it. But we did have a little bit of a...
well, we'll get there.
You want me? Okay.
We'll get to that part.
I'll trust you.
But let me just so we're going to do a very, very, very quick, very brief rundown of the various waves of feminism, just so you guys know what this timeline was like, what the movement was like, blah, blah, blah. So first wave feminism was basically aligned with women's suffrage. Yeah. So that was the time period that we're talking about, and almost entirely the focus was just on women earning the right to vote, earning the right to participate in government. There was a lot of other things about it. Women wanted, rights and privileges and equality.
That was a huge fight to get the vote.
Yes.
Just basically being allowed to participate in the government that rules us.
Yes.
Was a massive fight.
50% of the population
feminism.
And 0% of the government power.
Yeah.
Yeah. So second wave feminism is where we get into with this history story. And that started in the 1960s and was very linked to the civil rights movement at that time. So it became a movement focusing on how there were still so many legal rights that women did not have.
Yeah.
Even though women could vote, even though women could work,
couldn't have bank accounts.
There were a lot of states where you couldn't have bank accounts, a lot of banks that restricted women from having bank accounts. The government and institutions were still dominated by male, senators and CEOs. I know it hasn't changed that much today, but we'll get into that.
But even, we make fun of, like, in the West, we make fun of Saudi Arabia for the fact that, like, women can't drive on their own or any of that stuff. That's basically how it was in, like, 1970. So people who are, like, 60 or 70 years old were 10 or 20 growing up in a time where they couldn't have a bank account on their own. They needed an older male relative to be there, or a husband, which was the intention, I think.
Yeah.
To be like the co-signer so that they could have a bank account.
Especially because there were a lot of women working
Yeah.
at this time. In the 60s and 70s, women were working. And one of the biggest things that the second wave feminist movement secured in the United States, obviously this is set in Boston, our history story today. So a lot of our history will be U.S. focused, but I just think that it's still a good example of what it is and what we could still be doing today.
Sure.
So, so the biggest thing that the second wave feminist movement pushed for was was equal pay rights for women. The EEOC, which those of you in the U.S. may be familiar with, or the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, is basically an enforcement regulatory agency where you can report unequal pay, unfair workplace treatment. And it's expanded now to the modern day to include things like sexuality and gender identity. But at the time, it was mainly focused on if you're a person of color, if you're a woman and you're being harassed at work or you're not being paid the same, you can report it to them. And the way that it works in the modern day, I'm not sure how it is that they don't actually have the power to go after your employer. What you do is you report your workplace to the EEOC. The EEOC investigates your workplace, and then they come back to you and they say, yes, you experienced bad treatment, or no, this treatment was within the bounds of the law, unfortunately. If they say, no, you were treated poorly, you can then file a lawsuit. And many lawyers, once you have an EEOC agreement, will pro bono take on your lawsuit, for a cut of the money.
The ACLU and stuff, too, I think, does it.
Yeah. So that's how it works today. But even though it's not as powerful as it should be, it was still a huge push forward with allowing people to fight for better treatment at their workplace.
For equal treatment.
Yeah.
Just equality.
Yeah.
Just I'm doing the literal same job and I'd like to be paid the same amount of money.
Exactly.
And people being like, oh, well, you're just a woman, so why would I?
Yeah.
And this is that step forward that you can at least be like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. So yeah, the second wave feminist movement embodied a lot of women are just as capable and just as able as men to perform the same work for the same pay. We're able to perform the same skills, the same responsibilities. And moreover, men should also be able to do the things that women are doing unpaid.
Yes, I do think it's really important. I think feminism, people think it means like, well, some people think that feminism, especially people who haven't been educated in it much, means female supremacy. Feminism stands fundamentally for equality. It's supposed to be good for men too. It's just that right now women are like completely screwed. So it's like, in order to reach equality, the reason that it's called feminism is that we really have to fight primarily for the rights of women.
Basically, the idea behind feminism, in my opinion, and everyone has a different opinion, but in my opinion and the opinion of a lot of the people who wrote about it, the idea behind it being called feminism instead of egalitarianism is that in order to achieve egalitarianism, we must uplift women.
Yes.
If
and
we are achieving egalitarianism of the sexes, of the genders, gender and sex aren't the same thing. But if we are to achieve egalitarianism, we have to uplift women. And this doesn't mean pushing men down. It only means uplifting and empowering women to achieve the same that men are achieving.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why it has femme in the word, because the way to bring
important
women,
to know.
It's not bringing men down to women's level.
Yeah.
It's bringing women up to the same level.
Yes.
That's, I think, a really important distinction.
Yeah.
Now, this is the next part here is something that you and I have talked about and something that we're going to talk about here at the top before we dig into the health book part.
Can I just say the little disclaimer?
Well, let me, to start with, the Boston Women's Health Collective acknowledged that first wave feminism was almost entirely white upper class women because they were the only people who weren't working who could go protest and be suffragettes.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Boston Women's Health Book Collective has been still criticized for centering white middle class and upper class women's experiences. For you, I would ask, because you are trans and a lot of this movement didn't always welcome queer people, how do we honor what the movement got right while still holding accountability for those whose bodies were left out of the conversation, like women of color, women in poverty, disabled women, and trans women?
Well, so basically, the reason that this came up at all, and I don't want to derail the conversation, is that I've heard some rough things about second wave feminism in terms of how a lot of second wave feminists treated trans women, basically. So basically, I just wanted a little bit of like a disclaimer. Like some of these people, I mean, they're fighting for our basic human rights, really. Women, including trans women, women's basic human rights. So like these are champions. I love a lot of the second wave feminists, but it is a little hard sometimes to be like, wow, I really think that this person was awesome. And then you read the things that they were saying and they were like, we're going to fight for all women except trans women. And it is important to know, like, you know, there's a reason that there's a third and I guess a fourth wave feminism now is because a lot of those second wave feminists, as they developed, they changed their opinions, right?
Many founding members of the second wave feminist movement would go on to join the third and fourth wave feminist movements. Yeah. And the fourth wave feminist movement primarily focuses on all women, regardless of, you know, color or status or money, deserve the same equal treatment and uplifting and empowerment as men.
But there are some weirdos, basically, I think. And to be clear, I think being weird is good in a lot of ways. By weirdo, I mean like bad, unpleasant, antisocial, really, people who appropriate feminism. They're like, I'm totally a second wave feminist in the modern day. Because really what that means is that they don't actually have to change anything. They can just say, I agree that I should still have a bank account. And then they get to like pretend to be progressive. And a lot of those people still, I think, identify as second wave feminists, specifically because it excludes Black people and, you know, trans women and all these other things that they don't like because they're not actually progressive at all.
Yes. And we will not mention any specific billionaires names on this podcast who are responsible for literally spending 3 billion Great British pounds on lobbying in the UK. We won't mention any specific authors of children's fantasy. But I think you all get where I'm going with this.
But basically, I don't want to distract from the conversation. Ultimately, like, these people were fighting for women's rights to have bank accounts. If I couldn't have a flippin' bank account right now, I don't know how I would survive. So it's very important. They did critical work, and we should appreciate them for that. And, you know, like yes. You mentioned, a lot of them changed their opinions later anyway, which
a lot.
I used to have some real toxic opinions about everything. So I am not really able to judge.
Yeah. I think most famously, the name that a lot of our listeners might know is Gloria Steinem. Mm-hmm. Gloria Steinem was a very famous author, journalist of second wave feminism, one of the founding members and a member of the Our Bodies, Ourselves health book collective that we're talking about today. And she did say some toxic things about trans women. She also failed to bring them into the conversation in many circumstances. But in, you know, as she moved through feminism, as she changed her opinions, she's gone back and said the things that I said were wrong, not just ignoring what she said. I think that's what's really important, is that a lot of the times people will become more progressive, but they'll just be like, well, now I think that trans women are great. Now I think that that's fine. But I think there's still an importance in acknowledging, like, the things that I wrote and the things that we did were wrong.
Yeah.
And I think we can, should, and are doing better, and we can continue to do so.
Yes. But because of her, I get to have a bank account and, drive a car without an older male relative. So.
Basically. So, to get back to the Boston Women's Health Book Collective, their most famous work is called Our Bodies, Ourselves. It was pretty much an international phenomenon. We're going to talk about the origin of it and a lot about, the movement of educating women on their health, which I think is essential.
Yeah.
Basically, for everyone, not just women. But basically, in 2019, one former member of the collective said this generation of women needs to know the history of self-help, the early and illegal providers of abortion and midwifery care, the fierce womanhood that protected each other in doctor's office and the halls of Congress. What is it that women do for each other that transcends the medical? What is care?
Wow. I mean, that's already really powerful. And I do know, like, when I was first beginning my journey, my parents are extremely transphobic. And thanks to my wife standing up for me, I was able to have the confidence to continue, basically, because it really did mean blowing my life up. And, like, that's by design, right? Basically, it's like, we're going to make you so miserable to come out and be trans that it's easier to just not.
Yeah.
But I was also super suicidal, honestly. Or I guess I should say whatever on Spotify, I think I can say it. So I don't know if I would have made it even to the age I'm at now if it wasn't for the fact that my wife was willing to be like, no, she's the woman. And stand up for me and be there for me. And
I just think it's really important, like, especially when it comes to having your identity questioned.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a lot of women who have their identity as women questioned because
absolutely.
they don't adhere to whatever the current definition of femininity or womanhood is.
Which often is somewhat exclusionary towards
Absolutely.
women of color, I think.
Absolutely.
And other whoever the random minority of choices that we've decided to pick on this Wednesday.
Yeah. And I think that's what I think a lot of people might make fun of it, but that whole girls supporting girls thing is so important.
But the people making fun of it, I think, why do you think? Because they're scared. It's that meme of, like, they're looking at the big alien bug, it's afraid.
Yeah.
Girls support girls. Like, that's so key.
Yeah. Basically, there was a women's liberation conference in 1969 at Emmanuel College in Boston, Massachusetts. A group of women went to this women's liberation conference and they started talking about the healthcare system. They started talking about how impossible it was to be a woman navigating the healthcare system. And they got together and realized how much they didn't know, how much was kept from them.
Yeah.
So these women had no medical training. They had no scientific knowledge. But they said, we deserve to have it, regardless of if we have medical training or knowledge.
Yeah.
1970, they got together and published a large pamphlet. So I'm going to read a little quote here. We talked about our own experiences. We shared our own knowledge. We discovered there were no good doctors, and we had to learn for ourselves. We went to books and to medically trained people for more information. We decided on the topics collectively. We picked one or a few that we wanted to do and worked individually and then in groups to write the papers. They distributed it at the time for 75 cents, which was about $5. It basically paid for its own printing money, was not sold at a profit.
Which is what? That's like £3.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the original 1970 pamphlet covered the following topics in a series of essays and informative papers: women, medicine and capitalism, anatomy and physiology, sexuality, some myths about women, venereal disease, birth control, abortion, pregnancy, prepared childbirth, postpartum, medical institutions. The first thing in the very first essay, discussing women, medicine, and capitalism, the book pointed out that any doctor who failed to treat his patients as basic humans was a bad doctor, regardless of their skill in medicine.
True. Totally true. What's the point of being a doctor and going into care if you can't treat your patients. You know, you could say, I know everything about medicine, but if your patients are having a bad time, then you suck, in my opinion, and in theirs, I guess. I'm just saying, all I'm saying is +1, right? I agree, +1.
Yeah. They also pointed out that research in the medical science is completely controlled by male-dominated academia and male-dominated corporations.
Still, but especially back then.
Another quote I will read. Health is not something which belongs to a person, but it is rather a precious item that the doctor doles out from his knowledge. Thus, the doctor preserves his expertise and powers for himself. He controls the knowledge and thereby controls the patient. He maintains his status in a number of ways. First, he and his colleagues make it very difficult for more people to become doctors. For instance, for 30 years, the AMA, the American Medical Association, opposed the expansion of the existing medical schools, primarily to protect their economic privilege. Second, he sets himself off from other people in a number of ways, including dressing in whites. In fact, in most hospitals, there is a rigid hierarchy which is demarcated according to dress. Doctors wear whites, nurses wear white with a cap, nurses' aides wear a different color, and housekeeping women still another color. This is still true today in hospitals. They wear different scrubs depending on what department they're in. And while not every doctor wears the white coat, they still wear a different color.
I will say, yeah, it's very like military almost. It's like they have a uniform. Why the hell do you need a uniform to do doctoring?
The implication being, of course, that it is very important not to confuse one group for another. Another much more important way doctors set themselves off from other people is through their language. I know you're going to like this one. Pseudoscientific jargon is the immense wall which doctors have built around their feudal property, i.e., around that body of information and experience which they consider as medical knowledge. Some examples include epistaxis, or a nosebleed, thrombosis, or a blood clot, and scleral icterus, yellow of the eyeballs.
You're absolutely right. I mean, clearly I've been missing out, honestly, because I am everything you just said. +1. The thing is, I really want to talk about it and ramble about it, but realistically, they nailed it. That no notes. Well, +1.
Absolutely. So the essay discusses in detail about how mystification is deliberately put in place by the medical industry and how this alienates women and, to a broader extent, the poor in general. They point out that when women are condescended to and alienated in this way, they're even less likely to want to get preventative care done, let alone actual normal care when they're sick.
I think the only thing I would like to add, actually, is obviously hashtag not all doctors or whatever the hell. But this is the way that the system is built, right? You're rewarded by doing this. Doctors making it harder for more people to become doctors are rewarded with more money. So it's not that the doctors are evil and they are born and they're going like this, I can't wait to become evil. But you get paid more money by doing this sort of bullshit. And I think a lot of doctors and nurses and whatever that are in this industry, they don't think of themselves as oh yes, I'm perpetuating this weird military order where I wear a different sort of uniform and that means that I'm, second class, and I wear a different sort of uniform and that means I'm first class. I think a lot of people are just yeah, well, that's what you do. You're a doctor, you wear the scrubs. That's just how it is. Nobody really thinks about it. I certainly didn't think about it until you pointed it out, that it is a bit bizarre that there's uniforms. What is this, a military?
Yeah. I think there is a lot of steps, when you go to the doctor, for example. There's a lot of steps in which, in ways the doctor is isolated from you.
Yeah.
So now, your modern appointment, you're not going to even see the doctor first. You're going to see a nurse or an aide or whatever who actually takes your vitals.
Yeah.
So the doctor isn't even doing the basic things like your blood pressure and your temperature and all of that.
Yeah.
You go into a room, you sit down, the nurse actually talks to you, interacts with you, says, what are you coming in for today? All of this other stuff. They take your vitals, they do all this stuff. Then they leave. And then the doctor comes in.
Yeah.
separately.
Yeah. And it's because there aren't enough doctors, basically.
Sure.
But that's by design.
Absolutely.
Because there aren't enough doctors, the doctors that there are get paid a fortune.
Yeah.
But like there is the money.
Yeah.
There's the money. It's just even the doctors are making a fraction of a percent of what the healthcare industry is making.
There is enough money to pay 7 times as many doctors as we have right now.
Yeah.
That will mean that the CEOs of healthcare corporations will make slightly less than all the money.
Yes.
We have the money. People saying we don't have the money are CEO bootlickers. I'm just going to say it.
Well, it's also that we're misled, right? Because the CEOs who have all of the money buy the media corporations and are like, there's no money. It would come out of your pocket totally.
Right. An important question that I had for you. Mm-hmm. Do you think that mystification has lessened with access to modern online health information, or has that just created new problems like insurance jargon or an over-reliance on Google or, God forbid, AI to teach you medical knowledge?
I think it's way worse. I think now that there's all these screens between you and a doctor that you can fill out a form, whatever, you're expected to fill out a form. And it's like, I think that having some level of human connection is really important.
But what do you think it's done for the mystification is what I'm saying?
It is mystifying.
Because if a doctor comes to you and says, oh, well, I think you have hypertension, you can just look that up on your phone. And you're like, oh, high blood pressure. Thank you, doctor.
But do people look it up on their phone? I think people listen to the doctor and respect them as an authority. So no, I think that it's more mystified because there's more screens and everything else between us and doctors. And I actually also think, I don't believe in homeopathy, to be honest. I'll just say that outright. I don't think it really works, except for that I think it can give you what is demeaned as the placebo effect, but I would say more positively is higher morale. But I think that the reason that homeopathy was so appealing to so many people is because it is very like the doctors wear real clothes and talk to you like you're a human being. So why can't we have that? But also, the actual, I say actual, what we understand through science to probably be more effective medicine. Why can't we have both? We can have both. We must demand both. I think that's the most basic, how could we demand any less than my doctor treats me like a human being, which we know will raise our morale and thus our survival rate of lethal illnesses. And also, our doctor uses whatever we think of as the best medicine at the time, basically.
According to a lot of the things I've read, like in regards to preventative care, 50% of women were nervous of how they were going to be treated going in for preventative care.
Yeah.
And the original pamphlet talks about how only something like 25% of women had recently or within a certain time frame had a cervical screening done. And this was in 1970. But the numbers are still really bad.
Well, I get stressed out when I go to the doctor.
I know.
When they take my blood pressure, it's like twice what it is at home.
Have high blood pressure at the doctor's office exclusively.
And that's how a lot of people
I used to have high blood pressure all the time. Now it's just at the doctor's
But we can tell, right? They're in a rush. And that stresses us out. And that means that the answers we give even aren't always the best answers. Mm-hmm. I think a doctor needs to have the time to be able to sit down with you for 15, 30 minutes.
15 minutes is the average exam now. It should not be that way.
You're right. I think it should be longer. But basically, instead of having the form filled out and then they glance at it and then they say, what's up, right? They should have the time to sit down and really go into detail and know you as a person to some extent. And you should know them, right? They shouldn't necessarily be like a friend. I think that's an overreach. But you should be friendly. You should not be scared of going to a doctor. It should be helpful. Because throughout history, that is how it has been. People go to doctors. They were often tied into religion. People didn't say to themselves, I don't want to go see the doctor very often, because it was they're there to help you. If you have a problem, why wouldn't you want to be helped? And the reason is because right now it sucks. It sucks a lot.
Yeah. I did want to take some time during this podcast to talk about cervical screening.
Sure.
because I know most of our viewers are women.
Yeah.
And the numbers are not good. They didn't make me feel good. 50% of women in America are up to date on their cervical screening.
What's up to date?
That means they are within the age range where they have had a cervical screening in the correct time period.
What
I'm about to say.
Oh, sorry.
So you should start getting your cervical screening performed every 3 years, starting at age 21. If you are older than age 35 or you are at high risk, you should be getting tested every other year.
Wow.
Each cervical screening should include both an HPV test and a cervical smear test. I am not going to call it a pap smear during the podcast because it was named after the man who invented it, Papa Nicolau, and I don't like that. So I'm going to call it a cervical smear test.
That's fair.
Because it's for your cervix, not for a man.
Yeah.
So this is a PSA. Please, 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 please go get your cervical screening done. If you are listening to this podcast and you have not scheduled a cervical screening within the last 3 years and you are over the age of 21, please, 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 please go get it done. Even on the NHS, where it's free to get your cervical screening done, only 66% of women are up to date on their cervical screening.
I will say, because it's embarrassing, too. I mean, I had
What's more embarrassing? Dying of cancer or having a cervical screening?
But I can relate. When I was early in my transition, I remember I had this very wonderful female doctor. She was beautiful. And she asked me if I had basically, if I checked if my testicles had cancer. And I was
also extremely important.
And she was like, could I do that? And I will say, inside, I was dying. I was like, this doctor lady, this is the first time I've met her. I've seen her for a total of 5 minutes in my life. She's smoking hot. Do I want her to fondle my nuts? But I did it anyway. And it is worth saying, like, as embarrassing and humiliating as that might be, and it certainly was for me, you know, what's worse, that or getting cancer? Please. I know it's embarrassing. Of course it is. It just is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But do it anyway.
Obviously, in the US, there is an added layer of cost. So I did go get some resources. If you are in the US and you haven't had a cervical screening done and you don't know if you can afford it, if you don't know if your insurance covers it, there are numerous programs. So the cdc.gov website has a link to the National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program. There's a website and a phone number that you can call, and they will link you to local resources that offer low or totally free cervical screenings. Planned Parenthood, you can go to their website or you can call their 1-800 number. They offer cervical screenings for $25 in most places.
And a cervical screening, you need a doctor, right?
Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to get it done to do it yourself.
Because I do know, like, I brought up my thing just to have some level of camaraderie and that I know it's embarrassing, basically.
Yeah.
But you can do that particular exam yourself, I'm pretty sure.
I have in here as well that...
But a cervical screening, no way. Sorry.
Yes. I have in here also that you should be doing self-exams on yourself for breast cancer. Yeah. You should be doing that pretty regularly in your 20s. You don't actually need to get a mammogram done until age 45 unless you are at high risk or, it runs in your family. Then you can usually get your insurance company to pay for one prior to the age of 45. But you should be doing self-examinations regularly. Both the NHS website and the CDC website have videos of how you can perform your own self-exams for breast cancer. That's really important. For cervical screenings, I want to emphasize that your screening should include both an HPV test and a cervical smear test. 90% of cervical cancers are caused by HPV. HPV in 80% of cases with women has no symptoms. You will have no physical symptoms whatsoever.
Right up until you start getting really sick and there's nothing to do about it.
HPV you don't have any symptoms of HPV ever.
Oh, really?
But you develop cervical cancer. Because the virus changes your cervix.
Interesting.
And causes damage to the cells.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important. And HPV is very prevalent in the population, and it's very, very treatable and curable. And a lot of places like Planned Parenthood offer, again, low or no cost treatment to get it taken care of. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to send out this PSA. Please go get your cervical screening done. The rates of cervical cancer in women under the age of 30 are on the rise.
And can you imagine, put yourself in this moment where you just found out you have late stage cancer and say to yourself, I didn't go get a cervical screening because it was embarrassing or I couldn't find the time.
As a woman who has hit that age of starting to look at getting all of the testing done, it's very difficult. It's very anxiety inducing, but it's terrifying, more terrifying, in my opinion, to not know what's going on with your body.
Yeah.
Back to the original pamphlet.
Sorry, please. Yes.
So a lot of it points out medical knowledge and familiarity with your body is vital to overcome objectification and mystification, which I think is a really interesting idea. Like, women are objectified. That is one of the biggest problems that we face. Women are seen as sexual objects, as trophies, as accessories.
Trust me, baby, I know.
And I think a lot of that goes along with men having no freaking idea about the female anatomy. But yeah, it's really important, in my opinion. I think a lot of the objectification would go away if basic anatomy and physiology is taught.
I do think, because I grew up, I had to pretend to be a man, basically. Like, it's so bizarre. You have only guy friends, having a girlfriend who's actually just like a friend. People would call it, at least back in the 2000s when I grew up, people would insultingly call you gay. It was like mental. Homies, is it gay to hang out with women? Women were treated as like this whole other species. And this, I didn't grow up in Saudi Arabia in, 1800 or whatever. I was in New Hampshire in like 2000.
Yeah. How do women think? How does their brains work? Their brains are crazy. Women's brains are just different than ours, and I don't understand them. It's like, I think that's such a terrible way of thinking it too. It's so easy to objectify something that you don't understand. So a really wonderful part of the book talks about how feelings are not just in the mind, but that they also reside in your physical body.
Yeah.
So the concept that feelings are experienced within the body is known, and it's known as embodied emotion or embodied cognition. The perspective holds that emotions are not just abstract mental events in the brain, but are in fact full body experiences that are orchestrated by the brain and the nervous system. A lot of people, in order to kind of understand this concept, like, think of when you get angry. What does being angry feel like physically? Does your face get hot? Do your muscles tighten? Does your jaw clench? These are physical manifestations of an emotion, and these are experienced regardless of gender. This is something that both genders and sexes and everyone in between, every human experiences physical symptoms of emotions.
Yeah. This is something that helps me a lot.
Somatic therapies address this relationship between the mind and the body. And it is things like meditation, yoga, breath work. These are in the pamphlet from 1970. They talk about this. They talk about feelings residing in your body and what that can feel like and what that can look like and what you can do about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to teach humans in general, but certainly I don't think it's taught enough to women, because I think men a lot of the times feel their emotions exclusively as physical experiences. Like, a lot of anger in men is exclusively this like physical, like adrenaline rush, and they don't really understand that what they're experiencing is an emotion.
Yes.
They think it's a physical reaction.
I think men, again, I can say that I grew up as a guy, basically, but I didn't really. I grew up as a girl forced to pretend to be a guy. Mm-hmm. So it is hard for me to like speak for men.
I'm not asking you to.
No, but I do think like...
I'm just saying from my perspective, from what I've seen and what from the media shows, a lot of men will be like, oh, like my chest feels tight. Like my head feels hot. And it's like, yeah, you're angry. or you're sad. You're not allowed to say that you're sad. You're not allowed to say that you're feeling insecure. But a lot of men will say, oh, well, like I feel, nauseous.
Yeah.
Or I feel like butterflies in my chest. That's anxiety. That's a feeling.
Yeah.
That's an emotion.
This is a great way that I can point out that like feminism is good for men too. This is what I was going to say, is that men have to swallow their emotions. Totally. It's just how it is. You're not allowed to do anything other than that, or you're made fun of and somehow it's unmanly, which in my opinion, I think it's the exact opposite, right? If you're like afraid of showing your emotions because people will, give you shit over it or whatever, like that, I think is a little unmanly. I think you should be able to live and feel like a human being.
So one thing in the 1970 pamphlet that I think is interesting, they do talk quite openly about homosexuality between women, lesbians, and how many straight women may experience sexual attraction to other women at certain points and that it's normal. They talk about, it's funny because on the one hand, they talk about how homosexuality is natural, it's not a choice, and they openly discuss bisexuality, like how some women may date men and then choose to date women, not choose, but they may go on to date women and then they may date men again. However, there's a section of the pamphlet that talks about some women decide to become lesbians because they are scared of men or have been abused by men in the past.
Yeah, I don't think that's really true.
That's not true. It's not good. I will point out, the topic was completely redone in the official published edition. The published edition that came out a few years later, the homosexuality section was written entirely by lesbian women and was called, in America, They Call Us Dykes, by a Boston gay collective. The original pamphlet, it was questionably good. I mean, the fact that they were talking about it at all, I think is quite progressive, quite radical.
This is before women could have bank accounts. They're talking about,
You're so hung up on the bank.
Because I think it's
the only
insane.
thing you talk about.
Can you imagine not having a bank account? How would you function in society? You're a woman. You're cash only. You get paid. Now you have $2,000 in your pocket or whatever. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And you're walking home at night, and then you have to hide it under the mattress. That's terrifying. I am super hung up on that because I think that's like a basic dehumanization level of like, you're not even like a second class citizen. You're basically not even human. You're like a pet. That's just so absurd to me. So that is why I bring up the bank accounts thing, because I really like, what a nightmare. I like cash. There's a very big difference between even being cash only and having no bank account. Any savings that you have are literally like under your bed or something.
I mean, I will agree. And then you also you don't have the privilege of interest or earnings or participating in the world of finance. You can't invest.
Yep.
So it's definitely an insane restriction on women's ability to build wealth. In the part of the 1970s civil rights movement that said, you can't discriminate basic services like, banking, public transportation, any of that stuff.
So I am hung up on it because I think that's like, like I said, I think it makes you basically not even a human. It makes you a pet. I
get what you're saying. I just think it's a funny thing that it's the one thing that you mention every single time.
Well, I think that's worse than voting, even in my opinion. I'd rather not be able to vote and still be able to have a bank account. Now, granted, I still think that's a horrendous situation. Don't get me wrong. But like, that makes it so that you can't even interact in society living on your own independently. It's so exploitative. It basically makes you subordinate to someone.
I mean, that's what money does anyway.
True. Well, we could get into that, but yes. But I think, not being able to bank at all pretty much forces you to be subordinate to someone without actually legally forcing you. Sure. Sorry. Go ahead.
You turned that into like 15 minutes.
I'm sorry. Well, because you brought it. It is like, I mean, it's really stuck in my craw, basically. Yeah.
So the pamphlet from 1970 also goes over STIs, which they call venereal disease, and other important information like how you shouldn't drink while you're on antibiotics and how antibiotics make the pill, birth control, ineffective while you're on it.
Is that still true?
I don't actually know if it's still true, but it was definitely true at the time.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was true for a long time.
Yeah.
So it also discusses in depth about how the birth control pill works, fully outlining the risks and also the risks of not taking birth control. One of the important things that they discuss is like the rates of maternal mortality versus the rates of risks on the birth control pill. And this is something that I think is really weird and is part of the whole conservative movement. I don't want to badmouth any particular political movements, but I have noticed a very worrying trend in the health and wellness sphere where we're like telling women that they shouldn't be on hormonal birth control because it's poison, that it's going to kill you, that it's causing all of these other health risks. And I do totally want to acknowledge that hormonal birth control is not for everyone. Obviously, no specific pill or treatment is for everyone. And that's something we talk about a lot on this podcast. Like, stop blanketing everyone with the same thing. But a couple of different things to point out. There are numerous different birth control pills. Like, a lot of people say the pill and they assume that that's a pill and that's the same one. No, there's the estrogen pill, estrogen progesterone. There's the combi pill, the sequential pill, the mini pill. And something that the pamphlet goes into like incredible detail is talking about the effectiveness of them, how you take them, how you use them, what they can do for you, and the common side effects. And I think this is really important. And obviously, I don't want women to feel like they are forced to be on a birth control pill or forced to be on hormonal birth control. It sucks that a woman's responsibility is to not get pregnant, not that a man's responsibility is not to impregnate a woman. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is I've noticed a disturbing trend, and it kind of goes along with the trad wife, right-wing women should be at home birthing babies thing, where we're like discouraging women from getting on birth control.
Yeah.
And I think instead we should educate extensively. Women should be educated extensively on the different types of birth control. They should be able to try for free multiple types of birth control. They should be able to discuss with other women and with their doctor what all the things are.
Yeah. I mean, this is the factor. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
This is the factorization of medicine, right? Like, I think anything you put in your body, you should test and experiment and understand, because the way that it is for you is different for other people. But I do think just broadly being like, it's bad is silly. I don't think it's bad. For some people, actually, I think it's quite good. I know it helps people with their periods, for example.
Yeah. A lot of women with PCOS and endometriosis are saved by hormonal birth control.
Yeah.
And on the other end, some people with PCOS and some people with endometriosis, experience bad side effects from birth control. And again,
you need a community, right? Because I do think to be able to experiment on like medications, for example, if you don't have someone next to you, you might not even notice that you're really bad, basically, that you're feeling bad, that you're acting in a way that you don't like.
Yeah. And it just makes me really nervous because I see pretty lady influencers with a lot of young female audiences who are suddenly posting a lot of things like, I stopped taking hormonal birth control and my acne cleared. I stopped taking hormonal birth control and I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I went through about, 10 different antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, and the side effects all hit me. It was horrible. I hated it.
Yeah.
And before ketamine really worked for me, basically.
Absolutely.
But,
and the same goes for birth control.
Yeah. So exactly. The same goes for birth control. If it's not working for you, do something else. And ultimately, And
we have so many new forms of birth control that they didn't have back then.
Yeah.
Like, they only had the physical IUD, like the copper or steel version, which wasn't super good for you. But like the hormonal IUD, I had great success with. And there's so many other birth control methods now. And diaphragms are still a thing. And cervical caps are still a thing that a lot of people don't even know about. I never heard of a diaphragm in my life, but it's still something you can get, something you can use.
And this is something people were doing like a bazillion years ago.
The diaphragm has been around since the 1800s.
Well, even I was going to say the just birth control in general. I know like the Roman Empire, the heart shape that we all know is silphium or whatever that they destroyed because they were all using it so much.
Yeah.
So like birth control is totally normal. It's natural. It's part of being human. It's okay to use birth control. It doesn't make you bad. I know some religions particularly are like, how dare you, whatever. Like, no, it's fine. If something feels horrible to you, you don't have to keep living like that. I know it's not always easy. Sometimes you're in circumstances where you can't blow up your life the way that I did, basically. You've got to do it. You've got to try out the things that you want to try, basically. And, and if a lot of them won't work or will be negative for you, and some of them will be positive. And then that's what life is that you find the things that you like and you do it, basically. Yeah.
And I do want to do another little PSA here because we live now in a post Roe v. Wade world.
Oh, God.
Roe v. Wade was one of the greatest achievements of the second wave feminist movement.
Yeah.
It was passed in 73.
Well, it was a court case, but yeah.
It was used in 73.
Mm-hmm.
These women in 1970 lived in a world of illegal abortions. They didn't live in a world of no abortions.
Yeah.
They fought to save women's lives by allowing abortion to be legal.
Yeah.
In many editions of Our Bodies, Ourselves, they include images, very graphic images, of botched illegal abortions, including the picture of a woman named Geraldine Santoro, who bled to death in her motel room after a failed abortion.
That's horrible.
This is the reality of illegal abortions. Women who want abortions will go get them, regardless of legality.
And then die. Sometimes.
Rich women will always have access to safe abortions.
Yeah.
The women of 1970 knew what we know today. Sex education and education on contraception is what reduces abortion rates. This has been proven over and over and over again. We have the statistics now. We have 50 years of statistics that show that when you educate women on their bodies, when you educate them on contraception, when you give them all of the options, every kind of birth control, they will use birth control. They will be safe. They will lower the abortion rates.
Well, who wants to go through an abortion? Like, nobody is doing it for fun. It's an unpleasant experience. So avoiding it in the first place is great.
You think women who don't want to go get a cervical screening want to go get an abortion done?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I know. So it is, obviously, we need better access to and understanding of like birth control meds and things.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of like religious cults, I'll be not nearly as generous as you maybe want me to be, will say, you just shouldn't be having sex, basically. And that is a little demented, because that is really what it boils down to when you make this stuff illegal or really hard to access, is that you're basically saying if a woman has sex, I wish for her to be put to death, especially if she's poor.
Yeah, so little PSA, I just want to talk about like how important it was. These women organized, these women formed communities, these women used the law, they pushed it, they talked to legislators, they gathered together in a community, and it's become harder and harder to do that. I mean, the loss of brick and mortar feminist spaces, the criminalization of pregnancy in a lot of places. Like if a woman loses her baby, if a person who's pregnant has a miscarriage or a stillbirth, that could be a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
That's, first of all, if you're in the US, I want you to know that even though we live in the UK now, I am always thinking of you guys, and I want you guys to want the best for yourselves. I really encourage you guys to organize and get out there. I know that capitalism has made it harder and harder to do so. They are deliberately isolating us. They are deliberately preventing us from gathering because that is how we gain power.
Yeah.
And not just we as in women, we as in all marginalized groups.
And power just to live. Well, not even just marginalized groups. Like, all groups, basically. There's probably like 500 people who rule the world, and then there's the rest of us.
Yeah.
So if you're not, like, a multi-billionaire. You know, do you want to live in a world where you and maybe your son or your father are not allowed to cry? Right? Like, get out there.
I
This
agree.
is nuts.
I agree.
Why do we put up with this? And a world where your daughter or your sister might be put to death for having sex before marriage, basically. Like, get out there.
Married women get abortions too.
True. Also true.
People seeking abortions, every kind of person with a uterus can be someone in a circumstance to be getting an abortion. And I also want to point out a D&C is an abortion.
Yeah.
You went to the hospital, they gave you a medical abortion to save your life.
Yeah. And they don't now in some states, to my
They will not do it in some
There
places.
have been people dying already.
Yeah.
Who have not been because
because a D&C is an abortion.
After Roe v. Wade was struck down, that they can just say, even if you're going to die, we'll leave you to die.
Yeah, and the hospitals won't do it because of the risk even.
Yeah. It's why I hate this like pro-life framing. I think it's just such a lie. No, it isn't. It's pro-killing women. It's pro-killing women or punishing them for,
being human,
right? Like having sex before marriage.
Or in marriage.
So in what part of that is that pro-life, right?
Yeah, I don't want to get too much further into it because we do need to continue on with the topic. But
sure.
This from the pamphlet in 1970. There are two basic assumptions which I think are important to state clearly at the beginning. Number one, every baby should be wanted. There should be free, legal, and safe abortions to any woman upon her request. Every woman, rich or poor, black, brown, red or white, married or unmarried, has the right to childbirth preparation. These second wave women in their pamphlet discuss women should choose whether they have children, but having children isn't wrong or bad. It's just something that should be considered and planned for and discussed with a partner as part of your life.
Yeah.
They do talk about how pregnancy and childbirth is a community experience and childcare is a community experience. And so many women who have abortions are women who don't have a community. Yeah. They don't have a partner. They don't have a family. They don't have neighbors. So I think that that's so important too, is that you're also going to lower the abortion rate if women want to have children because it is supported and they have resources to do so.
I do think there's a really sick attitude of like, we want the birth rate to go up by forcing women to have babies. Because the truth is, like, my wife and I have more money probably than I think the average person, especially in the UK. And yet for us even, like, we want to have a kid, but it's really hard to afford. So there's two ways you could raise the birth rate. You could either oppress the hell out of everyone and force us into a nightmare from which there is no escape, in which case you and everyone else is going to be miserable, or you can make it so that it's like easy and affordable. Because I know in the US, back in like the 70s or whatever even, they were discussing making like childcare, daycare free.
One of the second wave feminist movement's tenets, unfortunately one that they never got past, was that just like health insurance, your place of work should pay for your childcare. And one of the big things that they were pushing for is every office building should have a childcare center in the building that the businesses in the building pay for.
I agree.
And then it's free to everyone who works in the building.
Yeah. I know the childcare costs are like through the roof. And because everyone has to work, if you have a family of like two people and a kid or two or whatever, you have to work. The adults have to work. So the kids basically have to go to daycare because they're not allowed to come to work. And you just have to eat that. You just have to eat that cost. And it's so unaffordable for so many people. But like, it used to be affordable. And we're we're like 5 times more productive than when it was affordable. So where's all the money going? Where's all the productivity going?
So in 1972, the Boston Women's Health Book Collective signed on to produce a commercial edition of the book and renamed it Our Bodies, Ourselves. As part of the book publishing contract, they demanded a 75% discounts to all health clinics buying the book and an even further discount if they bought it in bulk.
It's awesome.
And they demanded that a Spanish language version be published as well.
I think in America especially, that's very important.
Yes. Over the next 40 odd years, the book would be reprinted and expanded even further. They added sections on body image, nutrition, exercise, alcohol and mood altering drugs, emotional well being, occupational health, rape and violence against women, as well as expanding the homosexuality section to include both gender identity and sexual orientation. Yeah. They also added sections on HIV/AIDS, midlife, and menopause, and walked through many chronic diseases and how they impact women differently than men. And here I am on another little PSA, because I do want to point out that this is really important, because men and women have chronic illness shows up differently in men and women. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, men outnumber women 3-to-1 in medical trials, and only 1% of healthcare research and innovation in 2020 was invested in female-specific conditions. Oh. According to most studies, women spend 25% more of their lives in poor or worse health than men. Women consistently experience longer times to diagnosis. When looking at the exact same symptom of an illness, women will wait anywhere from 2 months to 4 years longer than men to get the exact same diagnosis.
Wow.
Yeah. Some good examples I'd like to share for women listening. We're more educated on this than we used to be, but heart attack and heart disease shows up much more differently in women. So if you're experiencing a heart attack and you are a woman, you may feel short of breath, back pain, nausea, or dizziness. Not the traditional arm pain, not tightness in the chest. This is really important because women are more likely to be misdiagnosed upon coming to the hospital and are far more likely than men to die of a heart attack, even when in the same hospital. Women are also less likely to be prescribed statins and other heart attack preventatives after they have a heart attack. Therefore, they're more likely to have repeat heart attacks.
I do know this is maybe tangentially related, but I want to bring it up. Crash test dummies are all based on men. I also know, like for training CPR, the dummies are almost all based on men. And it's been proven that men often won't save women by doing CPR either at all or correctly. Because basically you have to kind of push down in like the boobie area sometimes, right?
The
Maybe
sternum.
On the boobs. Yeah.
Actually, the best way to do it is to like rip up the bra so that you can separate the breasts.
Yes.
And actually apply pressure to the sternum.
And I got in a big fight on the internet about this. And the reason why is that a lot of men had the perception that they would be sued, basically, right? If they ripped a woman's shirt off while she was on the ground and pulled her bra up and gave her CPR. So I want our listeners to think like how often that happens. Think of a number in your mind, like a percentage. How often do you think that happens, that a man's life is ruined because he does CPR on a woman? And then think about that number, get it in your mind, and it's zero. It's literally never happened. It's never happened once in the entire world that a woman has sued a man for giving her CPR. Not
or been
even
charged
one
with sexual
time.
assault,
Yeah.
or been, in any way.
It's a total myth. And loads of people were replying to me and being like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to risk my life being ruined. I wouldn't do it if I saw a woman in public dying, and we have, there's been studies basically saying that like women are left to die in the street because people aren't willing to give them CPR because they don't know how to do it correctly. And there's this pervasive myth that they'll somehow get in trouble for it, basically.
Yeah. Another important one is stroke. We all know about more of the common symptoms: weakness on one side of your body, confusion, loss of speech or balance, slurring your words. However, women often experience hallucinations, vomiting, fainting, or even seizures. Another one is in regard to STIs. I mentioned this. HPV, 80% of the time in women does not have any physical symptoms. Women are also less likely to experience physical symptoms of chlamydia or gonorrhea. These can both lead to chronic pelvic inflammatory disease. Women make up 86% of sufferers of autoimmune and chronic pain disorders, yet they are chronically undertreated for pain and underdiagnosed. 50% of respondents to a study felt that their pain was disregarded or overlooked. This dismissal was frequently accompanied with being informed that certain symptoms, particularly those related to menstrual health, were to be expected and accepted as a natural aspect of being a woman.
Yeah, I do think it's funny that women are often thought of as like they have no pain tolerance, they're weak or whatever. Y'all ain't got no idea. I don't know how many men are listening to this. Again, I grew up as a man. Even just like beauty care. Women look at each other and say beauty is pain with a straight face like they're heading off to a fucking war. And like, well, actually, I want to continue on that. I have an epilator that I use, and when I use, which rips the hair out of your body. It's a machine that rips the hair out of your body
in bulk. So instead of plucking it with a tweezer, you're doing it all at once.
It's a mega plucker. It's like instead of a razor, it's a mega plucker. When I use it on my armpits, they bleed. It sucks a lot, and like, yeah, you know, women just like do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing is a lot of women have periods, and that's just like often for a lot of women, like getting punched in the gut for a week out of every month of the year. And then I think a lot of men are like, I'm so hard. I'm hard as diamonds. I'm the toughest man around. And it's like, you know, I don't want to shame you, but also like just don't disrespect women, basically, right? Women put up with an enormous amount of pain, and then doctors are like, when women come to them and they're like, I'm hurting, I think women downplay it sometimes a little bit because they're forced to.
Well, because if you go to the doctor's office and you're like, I'm in pain, and you're dramatic about it, then you're hysterical.
Yes. I also
think... word that literally is hysteria is from the Greek word for uterus.
Yeah. But I also think, like, I think men don't want to acknowledge, really, that women probably realistically go through way more pain than they do, because then it's like being able to take pain is considered a manly trait. So somehow women are more manly than men. And that is rough. Yeah. So I think, like, women have to downplay it, because if they actually talk about how much pain they're in, if we talk about how much pain we're in, then men are like, they feel insecure, you know?
But yeah, the suffering Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think, like, yeah, you know, it is important, and it's so annoying. I know when you say something to a doctor and they're just like, I don't know if I really believe you, but like, you do have to be like, I guess I don't really care, and you better give me something a little stronger or I'm going to eat you. I will fully consume you.
I mean, I will say, as a woman, the most common advice that I get from doctors is to take paracetamol or ibuprofen.
Yeah.
And that goes for when I had my IUD put in, which is a procedure where they insert a metal object into your uterus via your cervix. And also when I was having a miscarriage, I was told to take aspirin.
I will say, you know how I know the UK is less transphobic than the US? They give me less painkillers and treat me worse in medicine, basically. So, like, yay, I'm passing! But yeah, I've been in the worst pain in my life in an ambulance, and they're like, we'll give you some paracetamol. That'll do, right? And I'm like, on the one hand, great, they acknowledge that I'm a woman. And on the other hand, what the hell, man? Paracetamol?
Most studies on chronic pain are designed for men, which means many women undergoing treatment designed for men, despite the fact that this doesn't often identify the underlying cause of the pain. So a lot of the thing is that in chronic pain conditions and autoimmune disorders, the underlying cause of the pain may be different in men and women. Another huge factor at play is PTSD and childhood trauma. People who have PTSD or who have suffered childhood trauma, something that they call adverse childhood experiences, which range from very mild things like your parents getting a divorce to very extreme traumatic experiences. So girls are 1.5 times more likely to suffer adverse childhood experiences, abuse, and trauma than boys. Women are also 2 to 3 times more likely to develop PTSD over the course of a lifetime. Up to 80% of people with PTSD will experience chronic or persistent pain.
Wow.
This is not just in your head, too. I want to clarify. This isn't just mental, you know, a hallucination pain because of your mental disorder.
Yeah.
This is actual, real physical pain, which is brought on by the body's physiological reaction to trauma.
Yeah.
Also, many autoimmune disorders are a reaction to chronic stress and trauma. The brain is flooding the body with constant adrenaline and cortisol, which causes actual damage to your body.
If someone isn't dying, they'll work harder.
A lot of chronic pain disorders, according to a lot of the research I was reading, are costing the economy up to $30 billion a year in lost work.
Yep.
Because it gets so bad, you have to take extensive time off or quit because you become disabled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So additions of our bodies, our cells, starting as far back as 1976, began to include complementary therapies, which is where we come in. They encouraged women to look into alternatives to common over-the-counter treatments that only lined the pockets of big pharmaceutical companies. The book introduced many herbs that women have historically used for menstruation, menopause, birth control, fertility, pregnancy, and more. This includes cramp bark, chasteberry and mugwort for menstrual issues, black cohosh and sage for menopause, raspberry leaf and pomegranate juice for uterine health. And those are all things that I use in my herbalism practice for the same thing.
Yeah.
So they reclaimed a lot of herbal knowledge that had been dismissed as old wives' tales. This is something you and I have talked about when we talk about ancient medicine sources on the podcast. Like, why aren't we using honey still? Because your grandma put it on your boo-boo, so it's not legit. It's male-coded.
It's very sexist, is what it is. Yes, you're absolutely right. The reason I push back against you a little bit on this episode is I actually, while I was shilling our podcast again, I was like, sometimes I can be a little misandrist just because I'm insecure about my own gender, and I feel like it helps me pass as a woman better. But it is like, I do want to push back a little, like, it's sexist as hell. I don't know if it's man-coded necessarily, right?
I think misandry is something that's really misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot when we have conversations about sexism, because I do have my own misandrist tendencies. And just to be clear for anyone who doesn't know, misandry is the opposite of misogyny, whereas misogyny is mistreatment and sexism towards women. Misandry is mistreatment and sexism towards men. And there are many legitimate forms of misandry in the world. There are many legitimate cases in which men are discriminated against when they want to go into traditionally female professions, such as nursing or teaching, for example, when they want to get custody of their kids in court during childcare, discussions.
And this is how the patriarchy screws over men and women, right?
The point of the way that men are often mistreated, yes, is that it's all down to the patriarchy. The reason why men are not allowed in female dominated spaces is because it makes you less of a man. The reason that men are not allowed to be the primary caregivers to children is because it makes you less of a man, because it makes you more like a woman.
Yeah.
And then because women are less than men, that means it's bad.
Yeah.
So when I talk about misandry, I'm usually talking about the sort of online discourse of God, I hate men, or like rolls eyes, the men.
Yeah. I get that that's
and
like...
I'm using that more in like a social context. It helps you to socially connect with other women, to be perfectly honest. We can all connect with one another over how annoying cishet men can be.
Sure. I do want to push back a little bit because it's like you said, it's very man-coded, basically, that...
By which I mean the man, capital T, capital F.
Sure, but basically
the
like...
man who oppresses us all.
I know it's a little bit of a joke, but like, hashtag not all men, right? It is extremely sexist, and a lot of the most extreme sexism most certainly comes out of men, because it is the patriarchy after all, right?
Yeah.
But I think... I just don't want to... I don't want a man listening to this to be turned off and be like, I don't like this because I feel bad and it's like they're targeting me and I haven't even done what I'm being harassed for, basically.
Sure, but in the same vein, you could argue that by us saying the women of the 1970s were super transphobic, any women listening who were alive in 1970 could be like, "Oh, I'm not like that. I'm not like those women."
It's true.
Like, we get it. There are
You're
always exceptions to the rule. We're talking about societal changes on like a broad level.
Yeah.
So
You're
always there are going to be exceptions to the rule.
That's a very good point.
For our 5 male listeners, I apologize. No.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't mean it like that. I just think,
I just really wanted to make that joke because I know that not a lot of men are listening. I would love if more men were listening. Hi, guys. Herbal medicine is for you, too.
It is.
There's some
it's
really
healthcare.
great stuff. Hawthorn is really good for your testicular health, for example.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Fun extra fact from your herbalist friends.
Yeah. I do think it's we want everyone, this is for everyone, and ultimately everything we're talking about, like this is what I was saying, right? Feminism should be for men and women. Obviously, it's called feminism because the biggest focus has to be women, because women are screwed over way more, right? Often by men. Usually by men.
Yeah. But I think it's also important to point out, like, we talked about the Black Panthers in a previous episode. You should go back and listen to it. It was a really good episode. But we talked about the Black Panthers in a previous episode, and we specifically mentioned that the Black Panthers were working with the women's lib movement, because these were happening at the same time. The 1970s and 80s, and the 1970s and 80s for the Black Panthers and the women's lib movement, they were both pushing their own shit, but they also worked together. The Black Panthers acknowledged that they were on the same side against the man with a capital M. And the same goes for queer groups in the 1970s and 80s. They were all working together. Yeah. We should all be working together.
I think it is important. Like, a lot of people say, well, what does LGB have to do with T, basically, right? What does sexuality have to do with gender? And frankly, I think there is a little bit of intermesh there just to begin with. But secondly, truthfully, maybe not all that much. But the reason that it's LGBT is that we're all working together because there are people who want to kill us. So it's like, that's why we're working together. And if you isolate yourself, a lot of people will be like, trust me, just say that you disown everyone that is working with you, that is defending you. Stop defending them. And I promise you'll be part of the club, the family. I totally promise. And you know what happens to those people? They're the first to die.
I mean, I just think, why would you reduce the number of people on your side just because you want to arbitrarily identify and remove them? It's exactly the same thing as a group of, white middle-class women deciding that, trans women aren't included in the group. Like, okay, you've removed a bunch of women who were on your side and wanted to fight for you.
We need women.
Don't do that.
We need women and men to fight to destroy the patriarchy for all of our mutual benefit. Or, life can continue the way that it is. Men aren't allowed to cry. Women just suffer. Everything is bad. We don't even get paid the same.
I mean, it's been 50 years since this came out.
Yeah.
And how many of these are still issues?
Yeah.
How is abortion still an issue? How is women gender pay gap still an issue? Like, gender pay gap is still a thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any comments telling me the gender pay gap isn't a thing.
I know.
It's a thing. And I don't care if you're making the same dollars as a man in the same position, the expectations of unpaid labor, the amount of time you have to take off work, the industries you can't get into because you are responsible for your kids 100% of the time. There are so many extra burdens on women that make their overall net pay lower.
Yeah. And the other thing is, because I used to be a bit sexist, to be honest, which again, I can only apologize for. A lot of jobs, I'm trying to say this in a way that won't rock too many boats, but it's a little bit like saying that the military is really inclusive because it has a lot of black people in it, and the black people are all the enlisted and the white people are all the officers, right? So a lot of the gender pay gap is in the career of nursing, for example, or midwifery or whatever, everyone gets paid roughly the same. The 10 men and the 900 women.
But actually, that's not even true. Even within female-dominated spaces like teaching, men make more money.
Is that still, that's, okay, well, that's just even
And
worse.
men are more likely to be appointed to administrative positions
Sure.
where you make more money.
But I think the real big pay gap is that a lot of like what's considered men's work versus women's work, things that are dominated by men, like the tech industry, for example, is where you make bongo bucks, you know?
So another thing that they discuss that we love talking about is mutual and support and aid, building groups of women run by women supporting each other through all versions of life. They demanded that hospitals have spaces for women to gather and host their own groups for pregnancy, childbirth, and parenting. They wanted women to be able to form collectives for childcare, and they wanted their employers to pay for it. Each of the versions of Our Bodies, Ourselves tried harder than the last one to inform and uplift women. Each of them tried really hard to include more women and to acknowledge the intersectionality of womanhood. This was not always successful, and the organization has had a lot of repeat criticism of not including enough women of color, disabled women, and of course, gender nonconforming women. The modern version of the book is actually not a book at all. The website, ourbodiesourselves.org, is now a collection of knowledge, resources, articles, and voices. It is a free-to-use resource for not just women, but it still focuses heavily on its message of reproductive rights and equality for women. Most importantly, the website specifically goes out of its way to welcome women and gender-expansive people, and no longer uses exclusively she, her pronouns. As they say on the website, Our Bodies Ourselves has expanded the tent to include people with various gender identities or expressions other than women who use our resources. For example, many trans men will still find relevant information about menstruation or heart health. Understanding the medical and psychosocial harm that comes to gender-expansive people when their existence is erased by binary language, Our Bodies Ourselves uses gender-inclusive language whenever possible. For example, we use non-binary terminology, such as people with uteruses, when referring to people who have specific biological functions.
Which actually, I think they're better than me on that one, to be honest. I've made several mistakes this episode, which I apologize for if they made you feel bad.
I totally understand a lot of women who are like, misogynist men have tried to reduce women to nothing more than our sex organs since the dawn of time.
Sure.
Terminology like people with vaginas can make you feel like, oh, that's all I am, a person with a vagina. Oh, awesome. So a lot of women may feel that it's objectifying or offensive, but ultimately we're trying to be inclusive because we want everyone to feel included.
I do think I don't want to like be boiled down to that, and I also don't want to like hurt people by saying women when really what I mean is people with uteruses, and then like a poor trans man is listening to this and is like, oh cool, thanks, I really appreciate the solidarity, you know.
Yeah, I think it is hard because like as a woman I would rather not be referred to as, you know, breasted instead of woman.
But I could just call you a wibbly, you know, like we can make up the word. It doesn't matter.
I do think
you can make up the word.
I do think there's a lot to be said for like, I totally understand the objectification. I also really want trans people or non-binary people or gender non-conforming people, intersex people to be able to say, this is a resource for me too. I am a person with a uterus. I should know how my uterus functions. I know that we touched on this at the top of the episode, but I did want to bring it back around to point out how Our Bodies Ourselves has acknowledged a harmful past and has pushed back against that harm and has tried to move forward in the modern day, doing their best to fight against any rhetoric that may linger from that time. And I think that's a great example of what all people should be doing.
Part of my whole journey, I think, was realizing that everything I'd been taught was a lie. And I used to be a sexist pig. Really. And not in the sense that I was like, I think women are inferior to men, but in the sense that I was like, sexism was solved in 1980 by John Sexism, and there was never any sexism ever again.
As we all know, when the Civil Rights Act was passed, racism ended.
Yes.
And when the Equal Pay Act was passed, sexism ended.
Yeah. That was it's near and dear to my heart, and you have educated me a lot Like, these women were as smart as a freaking whip. You know, this is second generation, second wave feminism. A lot of the stuff they said in just that pamphlet you were reading, I was like, that is 100% on point. And I didn't even think about it like that. And these ladies were like, they were cracking, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's tough to confront the idea that medicine is an inherent part of the patriarchy. Like the way our medical industry is built is entirely patriarchal.
It's intermeshed in a lot of ways, I think, yeah.
And that's really tough to admit. And I think that there are a lot of people within the industry who are doing a lot of work. I know that part of what the work I am doing as a herbalist is to try and fight against a lot of that. And I want to say that nothing that we say on the podcast is ever meant to make doctors and nurses and practitioners feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
It is a vital, vital role in our society. And it takes a lot of training and skill and continuous skill over your lifetime.
But step back from yourself sometimes, right? Like
Look
if
at
you're
the
in a
system that you're
situation
in.
and you know that a doctor is saying that you should give this woman who's obviously in extreme pain paracetamol. You can take a step back and be like, I know this is messed up, and not accept it. And I know that's hard to do. You have to go out of your way to push up against that, but that's how we make a society in which when you need pain meds, you won't be given freaking paracetamol, basically. And also, like doctors, same thing. I don't think a lot of doctors, even that might do that, think to themselves, like they go home and they're like, I think women are inferior to men or whatever. But like, think about the way that you're acting. Think about it, really. Like a woman comes to you, she's presenting, she has a stomach ulcer or whatever. What would you give a man with a stomach ulcer? And if you're able to think in your head, I'm going to give this woman less than I would give a man, you should think to yourself, like, no, actually, I think that's probably pretty bad. And it doesn't make you an
But
evil...
also, why? Where does it come from?
Yeah.
Is it coming from that they're two different human beings with different needs and different medical histories? Or is it a knee-jerk reaction?
Yes. But I also think, like, it doesn't make you an evil, bad, terrible, awful person to do this, right? Like, you're not condemned to hell forever because, even if you've lived your whole life in a frankly sexist way, you can change and do better and apologize for the mistakes that you made. And then we get to live in a better world where, if you're a doctor, your sister or your daughter or just the girl that, works at the bakery that you say hi to every morning, doesn't have to suffer excruciating pain for no reason.
And even you, a female children's fantasy billionaire, author, can change and do better for women.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're here for you.
Yeah. As soon as the door's open, if you're ready, Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah, for now. We'll be back with Ginger.
With Ginger.
And definitely not a week later. We're definitely not in different clothes. And definitely this is still part of the Ginger episode. It wasn't that we talked way too long about feminism. And
I wouldn't say it was too long. I'd say it was too short.
But anyway, we're going to talk about Ginger real quick. Not too quick, but we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
So, Ginger, or Zingiber officinale,
Okay.
is a flowering plant which is related to turmeric and cardamom. It was first domesticated about 4,000 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Confucius was said to eat ginger with every meal. Ginger was grown in pots and brought on Chinese ships to prevent scurvy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they would literally have like pots of planted ginger to
keep it fresh.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. But so when did they do that? What time period?
Confucius times.
Really? So they were doing that in BC or whatever, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So but that's very funny, because then I thought the whole thing was when the British discovered the oranges and lemons, that was like transformative and was saving everyone from scurvy.
No, it turned out that the Europeans are just dumb and didn't notice that the Chinese and Asians had been doing this stuff forever.
Really? That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it was one of the very first spices, which was brought from Asia to Europe and was used by ancient Greeks and Romans. So the first people to cultivate ginger were the Austronesian people. The Austronesian people is the group that is indigenous to a lot of Southeast Asia. So like Taiwan, Micronesia, Polynesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand, and a bunch of others. So these are the ocean travelers made famous in like probably Moana, you might say.
Yeah, those are the Polynesians.
Those people traversed got all the way to Hawaii from
I remember reading a long time ago
ocean.
that there's some evidence that they basically circumnavigated the globe on little tiny boats.
Yeah,
because
little tiny boats.
their navigation and prowess was like incredible, and they would make these like sand maps. I might be overstating it, but basically there's evidence of them being in like Madagascar, and possibly they even made it to America. And they basically covered the whole Pacific, which is dotted with all these tiny little islands.
Yeah.
Because they would use the current, so they didn't even have to do much. The ocean would take them where they needed to go. Yeah. But they needed to know exactly where you need to be and when and everything in order to do that.
Oh, yeah,
and they had these incredibly precise maps that they would just memorize and draw it on the frickin' sand to teach each other.
Yeah, yeah. It required a lot of extremely... just a lot of skill.
Yeah, they're basically probably the best navigators of all of human history.
Yeah.
And they were just doing it with the stars.
Yeah.
The stars and their memory.
So one of the things about the Austronesian people is while they were traveling, they had all these little boats. So you would have a pontoon boat, basically, and then you would have multiple boats. So instead of having one big boat, you'd be like, this is my boat, and then this is my boat that has crops in it, and this is my boat that has, like, pigs and animals in it. So they, like, brought with them all these domestic plants and animals to all of these places as they traveled.
You know what it is? It's like a drone swarm, right? You can build one really big boat, but then if it hits a mine or whatever, it's done. Or you can build like 800 much smaller boats.
Yeah, exactly.
And if one of them hits a mine, you're like, yeah, whatever, I still got 799.
Yeah. So the Austronesian expansion is one of the very first forms and earliest forms of colonization. They brought plants all over from their origin.
I don't think the Polynesians had to deal with mines, but, you know, like a rogue wave or something else, right? Or a whirlpool.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, shoot, I lost, 3 boats, but a good thing I have another 10.
Yeah, exactly. Wild ginger was associated by the Austronesian people to magic and sorcery.
But basically, this is like an island route, like Hawaii, sort of.
No, it's it was native to like Taiwan, Southeast Asia.
Oh, native to Taiwan, really? Oh, interesting.
Southeast Asia. That's where the Austronesian people started, and then they spread
everywhere
and brought ginger and a bunch of other crops with them as they went.
Sure, but it's like Aruba, right? Sort of like a Pacific island route.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Hawaii's a bit far away, but yeah.
So the leaves were important for calling on ancestor spirits, and the root was chewed for magical purposes. In early times, they would plant a ginger at each corner of a garden to protect it against the destructive forces of nature, even so much as the volcanic eruption.
Yeah, because Pacific's full of volcanoes, right? They had to deal with that constantly.
Yeah. Question to ponder. What is it about the like warming, fiery properties of ginger that you think made it magical or spiritual?
I actually think it's probably because of what you said. It prevents scurvy. These are people who are spending like half of their life on the ocean, either fishing or traveling. And then, this is the route that lets you survive.
Sure, but why would you link, like, what is it about like the flavors of ginger and the properties of ginger that make it feel spiritual or magical for these people?
I don't know that I don't know that I agree with that. You think it's because of the flavor?
I'm just wondering if it is, hun.
I mean, I get what you're saying with the properties, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. The property that it's got a lot of vitamin C, basically.
They didn't know what that was.
No, but they knew that the people who ate ginger lived. So I would say that's pretty magic.
For example.
Sure.
if ginger had some kind of mind-altering effect, obviously it would be considered magical or spiritual.
That's fair.
But ginger doesn't have that. So why is it considered magical and spiritual?
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? It's like the fir is considered like a magical tree because that's the only thing that's around in the winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice and soft and it's full of life and you can use it to like make a tea or whatever. Ginger, first of all, it tastes good, right? That's nothing wrong with that. But also it keeps you alive. Like that's key.
Ginger's pretty strong.
And if you're spending a lot of your life on the ocean, and you have, a root that keeps for a long time and it gives you the vitamins that you need. Because like a fruit spoils quick, right? So I don't think the Polynesians, they were going all over. I don't think they had the time always to have fruit. Maybe they'd stop at some islands and get it.
Those travel well.
Do those have a lot of vitamin C though?
Yeah.
That's fair, but I bet you they think the coconut's a pretty good plant too, to be honest.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, I think because of that largely, right? Like it's literally life-saving to some extent. And also like seasickness, and ginger calms your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a very it's a pretty good, useful, lovely root that does pretty much everything you need it to do when it comes to the ocean and islands that are your domain, right?
I think that's definitely true.
And then I think that attitude also spreads, right? Because they were having contact with China and all these other things. And they're like, listen, this is the root of life. Yeah. This keeps us alive. And Chinese people are like, ooh, well, ginger sounds great. I'll have some. Yeah.
Ginger has spread throughout Asia. It's in pretty much all Asian cuisine.
Yeah.
Use ginger. In fact, in Ayurveda, which is Indian, ginger increases your Agni, or digestive fire, which is supposed to power up your spiritual will.
But that makes sense, right, too? Like, it does, I think, give you, like, it calms your stomach, basically.
But it's like a warming heat, so you kind of feel like something's ignited within you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It has that spice, but it's, like, a very specific kind of spice that I think is somewhat unique to ginger, honestly.
That's true.
Yeah, I agree. No, and I think that also is really important, right? Like, we're so used to being able to get basically any kind of spice in the grocery store, but, that's not so common in ancient history. So this is something that, like, it's a unique spice, and you can grow it in your back garden, basically. What a great herb.
All you need is a little bit of the ginger root, and you can grow a new one from it.
Yeah.
So ginger was medicine first, but as we've seen in the past, they combined it with sugar pretty quickly to make it more palatable. So this evolved into making ginger into candy, pickling it, turning it into wine, cookies, cakes, beer, ale.
Well, sugar cane comes from India, I think, right, originally. So they had it way before the Europeans did.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet you they were making nice ginger snacks for a long time.
So ginger is not just delicious. Gingerol, which is the natural compound of ginger root, benefits gastrointestinal motility, or the rate at which food exits the stomach and continues along in the digestive process.
Oh, so they were right.
So eating ginger encourages efficient digestion, and food doesn't linger as long.
So they said it in a different way, that it, gave you an inner digestive fire or whatever. But yes, that sounds like science is backing that up, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ginger is also famous for its anti-nausea effects. This is called a carminative, or a plant that helps to break up and expel gas. Experts who work with cancer patients say ginger is just as effective at handling post-treatment nausea without the negative side effects of anti-nausea medications. Yeah.
But that's incredible then, basically. So ginger is something that reduces your nausea, but it also actually makes things go through you quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So even more so, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of jungle in those islands in like Southeast Asia. There's all kinds of poisonous snakes and things, if I had to guess. I don't actually know, so someone can correct me and tell me I'm wrong. But if I had to guess, a lot of poisonous snakes, and I guess it should be venomous snakes. For venomous snakes, I guess it wouldn't do much, but there's all kinds of poisonous things.
Yes.
And if you pop ginger, again, it saves your life. So it is. This is the herb of life, you know? It keeps you alive on the ocean, keeps you alive on the land,
Yeah.
tastes really good.
Yeah.
Like,
It's also a safe option for pregnancy. So people who are pregnant, it's pretty much the best remedy for morning sickness.
really?
Yeah, because a lot of anti-nausea medication is not recommended while you're pregnant, which is ironic given that you're so nauseous at first.
I've never heard that before. I mean, that should spread. We should make that like a product.
I mean, that is sort of it is one of those things again where like I read these things from like evidence-based studies, right? Where they're doing studies, it's like people working with cancer patients say ginger is just as effective without prescribing anti-nausea medications. Like that's a big deal. Like chemo patients are already on enough meds.
Well, also, I was thinking for morning sickness, you know, in order for every human to be on this planet, you know, someone had to have, well, not everyone does get morning sickness, but almost everyone does.
Yeah.
And obviously, we should try to make that better, right?
Yeah,
So
I
this
definitely. But I just think that it's another one of those things where I'm like, why
hasn't this
aren't
caught
doctors giving you ginger or telling you to eat ginger as opposed to just writing you another prescription?
on? Well,
Or if you're pregnant, just being like, sorry, suck it up, buttercup.
unfortunately, I think there's this perspective that comes from like a little bit of like pride and hubris, and also like video games and things where it's like technology is a ladder, right? And you just climb, and your technology always gets better. But I do think like that is an ancient technology, and it's better than what we got for a lot of things, but we're not using it. But that's why we're doing this, right? Because I do think that should
for
spread.
the bees and honey episode. 'Cause there's a lot about that.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, but ginger, yeah. So for morning sickness, that's really interesting.
So ginger contains more than 400 natural compounds, including many with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. It actually has the same number of antioxidants as pomegranate or blueberry, both of which are quite famous as being like superfoods antioxidant.
Is there an amount of like too much ginger you can have, or like what's the dosage?
I think it would just like, it would just give you diarrhea.
That's fair.
I don't know what the dosage is because it would be dependent on who you are.
So basically, if you got diarrhea,
Like if you eat way
dial
too
back.
much raw ginger, yeah. But like, you don't even need that much. Just like add ginger to what you're already eating.
Like a few
like,
flakes.
When you're cooking like a curry or any other kind of Asian dish, like you give it a good like.
Yeah, but you're not gonna do that in the morning,
Like
right?
a ginger knob.
I'm thinking for morning sickness, you wake up, you know, you feel sick,
Mm-hmm.
you have one of those on the nightstand, and you gnaw on it like an apple.
Well, you peel it first, but yeah, you
Sure.
just take your ginger knob and you basically chewing on it releases it, and it's sort of like there's a lot of places, a lot of cultures where they just take like a little piece of ginger and chew it like a piece of gum.
And then spit, basically,
Yeah.
like gum. Interesting. I mean, maybe that's a good thing too, then.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's what you should look out for. You
Yeah.
should try to make yourself feel less nauseous, but if you're getting, you know, diarrhea,
Yeah.
then maybe a little less.
Yeah.
But ultimately, then also, you know,
So there was a very interesting study that I read that saw relief for patients suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and muscular discomfort after using powdered ginger over a 2-year period.
Huh.
So while I was looking at like the various studies, because I like to like dig into the PubMed and the Wiley Library and a lot of things to find open source studies that I can use for my research. One of the weird things that I noticed was like even the Wikipedia page for ginger is like there's no medical evidence for ginger providing these things, but the studies are different. So there are basically two different types of studies. There's studies on like raw ginger, powdered ginger, actual ginger, and then there's a bunch of studies on ginger supplements. When looking at the ginger supplements, most of the studies are showing there's no evidence of any medicinal effects. But when using fresh or dry ginger root, the studies do show effectiveness. And I thought it was a very good example of like why supplements suck and we hate them sometimes. Like you and I have talked about this a lot where it bothers us. And like supplements are so unregulated.
Yeah.
It's like it can say that it has ginger in it, but what percentage of ginger does it have in it? No one's telling them what percentage to put on there. Like when you and I make an herbal remedy and I say it's got ginger in it, I'm talking about real ginger.
Yeah, versus ginger all, but surely that they do have some level
Versus
of
like
regulation.
powdered ginger that's been mixed with who knows what to dilute it, maybe. I don't know. But what I'm seeing from the studies is that the supplements may actually contain very small amounts of actual plant matter.
Oh, so that's why.
Versus actual real ginger root that's been dried and used has still an effect.
Interesting. I mean, I do think,
that
supplements, unfortunately, I think it could be its own whole video. Because podcast episode. I mean, I watched a video a while ago. I wish I could tell you who it was from because I'd like to recommend them. But basically, I've been a little leery of supplements ever since then. Because even like the pills that you take, that it's like vitamin E or whatever, they give you like 20 times to like 100 times more of whatever the substance is than you actually need. And unfortunately, it gets a little technical here, but basically there's like bioavailability that you were telling me about. Bioavailability of a lot of supplements is very low, which means that even if you take 20 times more than you need, you don't even get all of the vitamins you actually need out of it.
Yeah, so just for listeners, bioavailability is your body's ability to uptake a mineral or vitamin. So like, for example, a lot of people go crazy for these super crazy high protein shakes, but your body can only actually process 30 to 50 grams of protein at a time from a meal.
Yeah.
So anything more than that protein's going to just come right out of you. Your body is not going, the bioavailability isn't there for your body to actually take that protein out of your food.
Well, I think it's like if I'm trying to drink a glass of water, basically, right? And I'm drinking it from a straw slowly, then I get the whole glass of water. If you then load that glass of water into a cannon and shoot it at me, some of it will get in my mouth. The vast majority of it, I ain't drinking.
Yeah.
That's basically, I feel like, how bioavailability works.
Yes. Definitely just like, I feel like it was just like a commentary on like why whole plant medicine is so important and why supplements.
They still have a role, right?
I definitely, like, me personally, I had bariatric surgery.
Mm-hmm.
My body doesn't absorb vitamins from my food at the same rate as, you know, normal people's do. So I have to take certain vitamin supplements. But it's the same thing. My body is only able to uptake a certain amount, and I'm still taking like a crap ton because they don't make it smaller than that.
Yeah. I think it's good if you're not going to get certain nutrients or vitamins because you just don't have a great diet and you're not in a position to fix it, basically. I think it's better to take a supplement than not. But, like, I do think it's pretty much the worst way of actually dealing with it. Because, again, it's very factorized, right? Like, something that isn't a pill keeps for a long time.
In these studies, was dried ginger in the supplements, how old was it by the time it got to the supplement stage?
Yeah.
Because it's so processed. Like, it takes a lot of processing to get from fresh knob of ginger to supplement that contains some dried or powdered ginger in it, among other things.
It keeps for a long time. You know, you can turn it into a cube, which makes it easier to stack than, like, that weird wobbly root. But, you know, that is actually, like, really important to get some of the plant in you, it sounds like. And for ginger especially.
Yeah. So, yeah. Obviously, we would encourage you to add more fresh ginger to your diet. There's Asian food, Indian food, the Caribbean. They all incorporate fresh ginger into their recipes. Give it a try. It helps increase your digestion, and it can even influence weight loss as part of a healthy diet. If you're interested on some ways you can use ginger beyond just putting it in a stir fry, you can grate it into your morning oatmeal. You can make carrot ginger muffins or add a little bit to a fruit smoothie. You can also add it to your rice or pasta cooking water and grate some of it into like salad dressings, especially like a vinaigrette. Another fun suggestion I saw was to add some peeled knots of ginger to olive oil and store it in the fridge. And then you can use that olive oil as a base for any like pan frying that you're doing. So if you are interested in doing any more like medicinal uses for ginger, we like our ginger tincture. We use it as part of our digestion support tincture. Demeter's Ease, that's the one. Hashtag not an ad. But yes, as part of our Demeter's Ease, we have ginger, peppermint, and fennel seed, all of which support healthy digestion. The ginger you can definitely taste as the strongest part of the tincture, and it's been like a lifesaver for us when we've been out and about. Your sudden stomach ache rolls on. Like, remember when we went to London and like I was miserable all day because my stomach was killing me?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Should have brought my tincture.
You're right. That probably would have helped.
Yeah. You can make your own ginger tincture at home. You can add dried ginger root to apple cider vinegar or to just regular rice vinegar. Bottle it and keep it out of sunlight. We let our tincture sit for at least 6 weeks. 4 to 8 weeks is usually the normal amount. But yeah, you can just take a teaspoon every time you need to combat nausea, indigestion, bloating, gas, constipation, the whole Pepto-Bismol song. Our immune support too, our Hermes immunity support also has ginger in it. And I've been giving it to you every day.
That's true, and that has helped a lot. Yes. Yeah, but I think like the kombucha that I drink, I think helps a lot. I do think the
You should start making homemade kombucha, and you can put ginger in it.
Oh, maybe. I mean, like I said, we like to eat fried chicken. I'm not the only one, and that
I
does.
Totally hooked on a Korean fried chicken place.
Korean fried chicken is so good.
It is so good.
But like, yeah, after I've had a bunch of fried chicken, I do like that Demeter's Ease. It's pretty good. It keeps me content with my terrible choices.
So another way that you can incorporate ginger without consuming it, this is more of a witchy way of using it.
Okay.
So add powdered ginger to salt, mix well, and sprinkle on the corners of windowsills and doorways. So salt is very commonly already used in this way. Doorways, windows, pretty much any kind of opening where you want to keep out the bad. But ginger can like enhance this effect, especially, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to sound like a full of crazy person, but like,
I don't think you're crazy.
Sort of things like the evil eye and curses and like the bad energy that wants to get in your home. Ginger can be a really effective way of keeping that out.
Well, I think so. I think they're very similar, really. Salt is very common. People put by doorways and things. Mm-hmm. Kept my mother out for a while.
I told you, it worked.
And like salt, again, right? Like it's something that you need to live. So it's like important to life. It's got like a life element almost in a sense, right? And then ginger, it sounds like I filled a similar role, right? Oh, you're gonna give me some right now?
Yeah, give it a good
but
sniff.
It's got no. Oh, just sniff it. It hasn't been peeled.
No, but you got some of the raw bit there.
I could lick it. I don't know. I wouldn't enjoy that, honestly. Yeah, it's a little strong for me. You okay there?
I'm awake.
I woke you up. I'll tell you what, though. That'd be great in the morning, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, I will say, even your tincture is really good in the morning.
We have a digestive tea that has dried ginger.
That's true, and that is really nice.
Yeah.
But maybe we should be saying...
Our digestive draft contains ginger root in it. Hashtag not an ad.
I wonder, maybe that's a good idea to take in the morning, basically.
Yeah.
Because I actually feel like coffee messes up my digestion.
Does the opposite. Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe if I was taking like a nice little ginger drink instead, that would be better.
Yeah. Ginger. That's our little bit. And that means it's the end of this episode that definitely didn't take us 2 recordings to record. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. As always, you can visit our website, alchymis.co.uk. You can email me with any questions, concerns, comments to Caitlin, Caitlin, at alchymis.co.uk. You can also check us out on Instagram at Alchemy Healing, alchymishealing. What else?
See, that keeps well. Because we've had this for like...
This has been in my backpack for the last week because we totally didn't need 2 recording sessions. So.
And it's still like nice and moist.
I mean, that's
inside.
the nice thing about a root. It's good.
It has a really strong flavor.
I kind of liked licking it, to be perfectly honest.
I didn't like licking it, not one bit. I actually will also say that big chomp that I just took then.
Too much?
Well, we're on video, so I had to like do like the video personage. But you remember that time when I was recording you and I stubbed my toe really bad and then I just didn't even blink? That's pretty much just what just happened to me. So I would recommend to our listeners, if you're trying to have some ginger in the morning and chew it like I just did to treat morning sickness or whatever, don't do that or you will scream. But I will also say, I had some fried chicken earlier today. I forgot to ask for your tincture, actually. In fact, I probably should have. But I can already tell, like, that calmed my stomach a little bit.
All right.
So.
Well, that about sums it up for today. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you next time on Common Roots.